Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Have you ever, walked into a store and been totally drawn in by their look? Or maybe you're just glued to a movie poster and you can't quite figure out why. I'm telling you, it's not magic, it's color theory at work.
It's true. Color is such a powerful tool, and we react to it on such a deep level, even without realizing it. And the cool thing is there's actually a sort of science behind it, a way to decode those reactions.
See, this is what I love about these deep dives. You always send over the most interesting stuff. This time it's this YouTube video, Color Theory for Noobs by Flow Studio.
It's a great
And then
one.
don't let the name fool you. This is for anyone who wants to understand, like the secret language of color.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic primer. Julian, the creator, he does such a good job of breaking these sometimes really complex concepts down into pieces that anyone can understand. By the end of this deep dive, you'll be able to, I don't know, walk into a room, scroll through a website with a whole new level of color awareness.
I am so ready. So where do we even start? What are the fundamental building blocks of this color language?
Well, just like any language, color theory has a set of basic elements, and the video starts with what I like to think of as like the ABCs of color:
Mm.
hue, saturation, and lightness.
Okay, hue, saturation, lightness, those are terms I've definitely heard before. But honestly, I could never quite keep them straight. Help me out.
Think of it this way. Hue is essentially the pure color itself. It's what distinguishes blue from green from red. Imagine those color pickers you see in like any app. You know, when you're sliding along that spectrum of color, that's you changing the hue.
Okay, that's actually a really helpful way to visualize it. So if hue is like the what of the color, what about saturation?
Good question. Saturation is all about the intensity of that color. A
Yeah.
highly saturated red is going to be super vibrant, maybe even a little bit much, whereas a less saturated red of the same hue might be more muted, almost dusty looking.
So like a fire engine versus a faded brick wall. Both red, but totally different vibes.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. Now what about lightness? Where does that fit in?
Lightness is essentially how bright or dark a color appears. Think about adding white to red. You get pink, a lighter version. Add black to that same red, and you get burgundy, much darker. That's lightness at play.
Wait, hold on. So that's why we have a zillion different names for shades of blue, right? Sky blue, navy blue, indigo. They're all playing with the lightness of that base blue hue.
Precisely. And the cool thing is, once you understand those three properties, hue, saturation, and lightness, you can basically deconstruct any color you see. It's like having X-ray vision for the world of color.
Okay, I'm starting to feel like I can see the matrix here, decoding all the colors around me. But now that we've got these building blocks, how do we actually put them together? Are there rules for what colors actually look good together?
You're right, it's not enough to just know the ingredients, you need the recipe. And that's where color groups come in. They're essentially like tried and true formulas for creating color combinations that just work.
So this is like color theory's greatest hits, the combos that just always work.
Exactly. And the video does a great job of explaining this visually with the color wheel.
Oh man, the color wheel flashbacks to elementary school art class.
Right, back to the finger paints.
Yes.
But that wheel is actually a really powerful tool. It shows the relationship between different hues, and based on their position on the wheel, you get these amazing color harmonies. So one example is analogous colors, which are hues that sit next to each other on the wheel.
Okay.
So think about like those sunset gradients that everyone's obsessed with taking pictures of.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Nature's a pro at analogous colors.
Okay.
Those warm oranges and yellows just blending seamlessly, it just feels right. And that's because they share these similar undertones, which creates a sense of harmony and visual flow.
Okay, so it's not just that it's pretty, it's like our brains are kind of wired to find that soothing.
Exactly.
So analogous is like neighbors on the color wheel.
Yeah.
What about colors that are like total opposites? Do those ever work?
Oh, yeah. And when they do, they really make a statement. We're talking about complementary colors, hues that sit directly opposite each other on the wheel, like blue and orange, the classic sports team color scheme.
You're so right. It's like those colors were just made to clash, but in a good way. Like they each bring out like the best, the brightest in each other.
Exactly. It's that strong contrast that just naturally draws the eye. And there's a reason why warning signs are often red and white. It's the most attention-grabbing combo.
Whoa, color theory is basically subliminal messaging. This is getting deep.
It is. Now, the video also mentions triadic color schemes, which involve using three colors that are evenly spaced on the wheel, like the points of a triangle.
Okay, so this is like next level color coordinating.
Right. And these triadic combos tend to be really vibrant, really energetic, even with like muted versions of the colors. Think about the primary colors: red, yellow, blue, classic triadic scheme.
Okay, this is blowing my mind. And the thing I love is that Julian mentions you don't always have to stick to these rules rigidly. It's like learn the fundamentals, and then you can kind of go out and break them artfully.
Absolutely. I mean, these groups are amazing starting points. But developing your own eye, your own sense of what works, that's where the fun begins.
I'm feeling inspired. But before we go full on Picasso, there's another layer to this, right? The psychology of color. This is where things get really interesting. Julian touches on this in the video. This whole idea that colors can like actually make us feel a certain way, like they evoke specific emotions and maybe even influence our behavior.
It's true, and it goes way beyond just like personal preference. There's a whole field, color psychology, that studies these connections.
Yeah, like we all know that person who's obsessed with green, but like are they drawn to it because it reminds them of nature, or is there something like deeper going on?
Well, think about it this way. Like, for most of human history, right, we've been surrounded by nature. So green, I mean, that meant life. It meant growth, abundance. It's basically hardwired into us.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's not just a pretty color. It's like tied to our instinct to survive.
Exactly. And blue, I mean, that often represents like calmness, trust. I mean, think about how many like social media companies use blue in their branding.
Whoa, Facebook, Twitter, they all want us to feel all safe and trusting while we're like endlessly scrolling.
It's subtle, but it's effective. And then you have red, the color of fire, of passion, even danger. And it's not a coincidence that like it grabs our attention instantly.
That's why it's on everything from stop signs to like clearance sale tags.
Precisely. So when you understand these like underlying meanings, it's like someone just like handed you this decoder ring for the visual world.
This is blowing my mind. And in the video, Julian does this really cool test with these blue dots, right? Changing their hue, their saturation, and then even adding a second dot to like create a mini color scheme. I got to admit, even knowing all this basic stuff now, I was surprised by how much those subtle changes like really impacted how I saw it.
It just shows how sensitive we are to even the smallest variations in color. And that's the beauty of this whole field. It's a constant process of like observation, experimentation, discovery.
I'm so glad we did this deep dive. What's like the one big takeaway you hope our listener walks away with?
You know, for me, it's that color isn't just decoration. It's a language, and it's a really powerful tool for communication. And the more we understand all its little nuances, the better we can use it in our own lives, whether we're choosing paint colors, designing a website, or just even like appreciating the art and design all around us.
That's a good one. So for all of you listening, here's a little challenge as you head back out into the world, armed with your color decoder rings. Pay attention to how color is being used around you, especially in advertising, like branding. Are they using those like warm, inviting colors, or are they going for something bolder, high contrast? Once you start noticing it, you can't unsee it.
It's true. And the more aware you are of these cues, the more you realize just how much color really shapes how we see the world, how we feel, even how we make decisions.
This has been such a fascinating conversation. Thanks for diving in with us.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, keep those color wheels handy. There's a whole world of color out there just waiting to be explored.